Welcome to Did You Know with Richard Utley. During this 1-hour program, join us as we take a look at today's headline news, Richard's views, history, inspirational interviews, and much more. Did you know this program airs every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube? Here's Richard. Now sit back and enjoy today's featured presentation.
Good morning, and welcome to Did You Know? Well, you know today's a big day. Today's election day. There's no excuses. You got to get out and you got to vote. I'm telling you, it's very important. And for those of you who say it doesn't make a difference, it does make a difference. And if you don't participate, then don't complain. You know, I've been trying to tell you for a long time on my audience that, it's about your vested interest. If you don't vote your vested interest, then shame on you. I've been running to a lot of people who said to me, oh, I would have voted this way, I would have voted this way in the last presidential if I've only knew. What do you mean? You should have been voting your vested interest from the very beginning. So I'm telling you now, you got to 8 o'clock to get to the polls. There's no excuse. Call somebody, find somebody to take care of your kids or take care of your kids with you. But get to the poll. That's how important it is. I think you're seeing how politics is going on in America. But one of the things I will always keep telling you, politics is local. So you got to support those people who support you. And with that, I want to just say a couple things. I think it's very important for you to get out today to vote. Whatever municipality you live in, township you live in, or city that you live in. And make sure that you go out and you exercise your vote. The only one that I've just said definitely important, because I said all politics is local, especially in Pennsylvania for the Supreme Court. I would hope that all of you would vote yes. I think it's very important. Don't get confused by the hype. We got some good quality candidates out there. I think you should support them. I think you should look at who's going to look out for you. Okay? That's the most important thing. Vote today. It's today, not tomorrow. And don't think about tonight at 10 o'clock saying, oh, I should have went to the polls. You need to do your civic duty. Because think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If your vote wasn't important, why is all this conversation about voter ID? What's about, all of a sudden finding 100 reasons to keep you from voting? So if voting didn't count, why would anybody put all this energy in it? I just want you to think. That's why I call this Did You Know? As I said, I try to keep you posted on many things because I think it's very important. I mean, did you all know that in Pennsylvania, when it talks about incarceration, the ICE detention centers have among the largest number of immigrants in solitary confinement? And guess where one of those places is? It's in Pennsylvania. That's right, Pennsylvania. In Clearfield County, they have a facility. That's where they have quite a bit of people that ICE has detained. And for your information, they're run by a private prison grant. That's what they're run by. They're run by a private prison. So you need to be aware of those things, because you need to be aware of the things around your surrounding or around in your state. The vast majority of the detainees are not even convicted criminals. You heard what I said? They're not convicted criminals. And I think you should think about that. And when I say solitary confinement, it's the practice of isolating people in cells without meaningful human contact for 24 hours or more per day. ICE say it's a mandatory practice only as a last resort to control people. I'm saying all that to you because I've always thought solitary confinement can be inhuman. Not just in ICE, but in federal prison and state prisons. And I think we need to take a look at that. So some of you have some fellows or women that's incarcerated. You maybe need to take a look at some of the policies that they have in these prisons. And don't take the attitude it don't affect you. Because sometime down the road, it may affect you. Oh, everybody's got something to say. This big controversy about the Super Bowl performance about Bad Bunny. Now, to me, ladies and gentlemen, that is crazy. We got people saying, well, his music's unlistenable, his politics is unacceptable, his lyrics is in Spanish. He's un-American. Now, just tell me, ladies, how can you be un-American when Puerto Rico was a part of America? See, that's the ignorance of some people going out and making statements. There's nothing wrong with having him on. We should have a padre of all kinds of experiences of different music, and we should support them all. But they have that one few that says, he's un-American. You've even had people that talked about, you had even people talk about sending him back, deporting him, not understanding that Puerto Rico is a part of America. Plenty of folks are fired up about him. Conservatives, Rolling Stone blasted the NFL, talked about it. That's crazy. But keep this in mind. Remember, as I just said, Puerto Rico is part of America. Last program I talked to you about certain things about apartheid. I talked to you about South Africa, and I told you to do your research on apartheid. I told you to do your research on South Africa. Many of you are aware that this administration has made a decision to bring white South Africans over here deemed as refugees by the Trump administration. And they're talking about bringing them into central Pennsylvania. And I just want, and based on that is because the majority of South Africa's government now is black African majority. And so all of a sudden we got some whites over there feeling they're not get treated very well. I just want you to keep in mind we weren't always treated well, and that doesn't mean that we should treat anybody the way we were. Africans are they're the descent of the 17th century Dutch settlers who colonized South Africa. That's right, they colonized South Africa. And they established the South African government, as they call apartheid. Oppression at the time, it was a violent regime that pretty well for 50 years had segregation. 50 years into the early 1990s. And the reason after the 1990s has changed is because people started speaking out about South Africa. And I remember me going to school at the University of Pittsburgh. We had demanded that maybe the University of Pittsburgh, who was funding a lot of money to South Africa, that they need to figure out all that money they're sitting, maybe they should stop because we're supporting a racist institution. And I have to tell you, that's what happened all across the country. So those of you who don't understand, I will say to you, think of Nelson Mandela and do your research on Nelson Mandela. And I think if you do your research on Nelson Mandela, you'll get a perception and a perspective about South Africa. Because even though we all know right now the administration is shutting down borders of refugees and asylum seekers from across the world, mostly black, brown, or Muslim refugees. So just keep that in mind. So understand politics, but also understand how South Africa was colonized, understand what South Africa is now, and the South African president has denied that folks are getting treated bad. But think about it. They deny they're getting treated bad. But then I have to think about it sometimes. You're going to laugh at this. We live in America and sometimes we get treated bad. I'm just saying, just want you to think about it. I think that people need to understand that racism without a consequence is crazy. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm sure a couple weeks ago you guys heard about these emails that were sent by these young Republicans and the kinds of things they said about Jews, the kinds of things they said about blacks, and made a lot of fun about it. And there was no consequences. There should have been a lot more consequences. And you just think about it. When the Vice President of the United States said, oh, this is just basically young people just doing talk. We ain't talking about 9, 10-year-old kids. We're talking about adults that are in key positions. And they can make that kinds of statements and racial statements. And we just pass it off. There's got to be a consequence. And the consequence got to start being things like don't vote that way, or don't support institutions financially to support those kinds of things. I mean, those are the things that I think that we need to be aware of. because my attitude is we have to take responsibility for ourselves. I've been saying this for 3 years on this program. We can't wait on anybody to ride through our neighborhoods and make everything good for us. We can't do it. We got to do it for ourselves. So I'm saying all that to say to you, the other thing I'm saying to you is, I'll keep saying it the rest of the day, get out the vote. Because I think getting out the vote is very important. Now, who's going to be on my program today? Let me just tell you this. I believe in bringing people on my program that can tell their story, can tell their plight, can tell how they got to where they got to, or what made them want to get to where they wanted to get to. So today, I just very fortunate. I have a young man on my program today that I have a high respect for. But not only I have a high respect for him, but I will have him on here because I want people to look at him and say, you know what? They can be him. The other thing is, he's going to be shocked at this, but I want him on here because you know what else he represents? Positive black male. Because so often we hear about not positive black males, or if they do create that, they create it when people show us in the movies, and they always define us. That's why I have this program, because I get tired of us being defined for 5 minutes in the news, or I get tired of us getting defined in the movies. And so if we don't tell our own story, if we don't draw our own narrative, then shame on us. So, you know, I'm going to have all kinds of people come on my program. Because why? Because I want you to look at them and say, oh, I know him, or I know somebody like him, because I want to give encouragement. I want to give vision. I want to give hope. Because we have to start giving our young people hope. Hope. I keep telling you, when I run into young people and they tell me, oh, I'm only going to live to 17 or 18 years old, that's very troubling to me. Or I hear them say, nobody don't care about me. And we have to do a better job of letting them know that they're important and we do care about them. Because let's remember, they're the next generation. When you and I are gone, they're going to be where we are. And we need to help support them so they can get to where we want to be, or they should be higher than where we want to be. So this afternoon, I got my young man on here. He's going to tell you who he is, and after he tell you who he is, we're going to find out how he got to where he got to. You got it.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? My name is Dominique Commodore. I am a local educator and principal. And before we move forward, like I said, today I'm here and we're going to do a little bit of discussion just about, how I got here. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My views today are just, solely just how I feel about where I'm at, not a reflection of, my occupation and my job. So I'm currently a principal of a local school district here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm a proud alumni of also the Harrisburg School District class of 2006, the greatest class to ever come out of Harrisburg High School. After that, I continued my education where I wrestled at Messiah College, and I graduated from Messiah in class of 2010. Following that journey, I went on to Wilson College where I received my teacher certification and my master's in special education K through 12. Following that, I went on to receive my principal certification from Shippensburg University, and now currently I am enrolled in the doctoral program in the Millersville Shippensburg University cohort. So a little bit about myself. As I told you, I'm a proud resident of Harrisburg City. I'm a proud father as well. I have two sons, Dominique Commodore Jr. and Bryce Jr. And like I said, I grew up uptown and currently also the head wrestling coach of the Harrisburg High School. So it's a little bit about myself. I'm glad to be here, as I stated, and so here we are.
Okay, let me ask you this here. And for the record, I like to be transparent because all of you will tell me, yes, I'm familiar with him, but I am also familiar with most of you who know me in education, because most of you know that my wife is a former superintendent of school districts, and she also worked for the Department of Ed.
Yes, sir.
So I do understand the passion that people have to have in education. What made you decide education? What made you decide? Because sometimes people have bad experiences of education, but what made you decide that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, for me, it was a point in my life where I had graduated from college, and I was working. I'm not going to say like a dead end job, but I was working at a company called Bath Fitter, and my wrestling coach was like, "Hey, we're going to need someone to take over the program." So my great coach, the legendary Jesse Ross, and so he was like, "Listen, you need to be a teacher." And so because of his tutelage and his mentorship, I started a program in which led me to become a certified educator. And so at first I didn't really have a desire to be an educator, but I love wrestling. And so in order for me to be a great coach, because I believe that if coaches are in the building at the school, they have an opportunity to draw students to be a part of it. From there, I only did it because I wanted to coach wrestling. But I will say this, the love that I had for education and wanting to become a teacher changed, and it grew day after day as I continued to work with students that resembled me growing up.
Well, okay, so you took the athletics of the wrestling
Yes,
to
sir.
help motivate you.
Yes, sir.
So what would you tell my audience out there how they should encourage young people to understand that education is important?
So for one, I believe that education is the gateway to anything you want to do in life. If you don't have any knowledge about anything, whether you want to go to school to be a teacher, whether you want to go to school to be a carpenter, you have to learn. And so it's very important. I would say right now we are in a great space in education, and even a great opportunity for people to become an educator. And because we have a teacher shortage across the country. So I believe with that, it has drawn an opportunity for us to draw educators or people who are inquiring to be educators that look like the students they serve. Across the country, we have a shortage, as I stated earlier. So now the Department of Education are opening up gateways and doors with the Emergency Teacher Certification Program. And so because of that, we now have people in the community that are now working at these schools that are alumni of the schools, where before the requirements to become a teacher were a little more rigorous, but now the Department of Ed is working with you and giving you opportunities to become an emergency certified teacher, helping you find programs. And I believe that is making a big difference because students are finding teachers that look like them, that can relate to them, that grew up in communities just like them, and it's able to make an impact. The number one thing I feel as though in education that makes students grow, or just students want to learn and even be there, is relationships. As Dr. Rita Pearson stated, that kids don't learn from people they don't like, and it's easier to build that relationship when I believe truly that the person that's in front of you educating you can relate to the situations and circumstances that you grew up in.
That's a very interesting concept that you just said, and people need to understand that. There's always this big thing out there that we can't get, especially people of color, to be school teachers.
Yes, sir.
What do you think that we should do to try to get them more engaged in wanting to be in education?
I truly believe like right now is a great opportunity to just explain to them and show them the value of becoming a teacher. A lot of people state, well, maybe the pay is a little low. I do believe that, you have to look at the body of work that you do. So you work for 189 days and you receive salary, and you also receive great health insurance, you receive a pension. So those are some of the perks that, come with becoming an educator. One thing that I would say is that my job specifically in other surrounding districts, they do offer like tuition assistance, and so that has been my driving motive to want to go back. So I've been able to, like as I stated, receive so many different degrees. But it's also the number one thing for me is the impact. Like I said, I am an alumni of where I work at. I'm from this community. I serve this community, so it's meaningful for me. I go above and beyond the call of duty because I can connect. I know what it's like to have a teacher pay for my prom stuff. I know what it's like for a teacher to be there to support me when I need extra tutoring. And I wouldn't be here today without all those people that poured into me to make me the person I am today. So, they just have to find their why. I believe once you find your why and truly understand that you will make a difference and an impact on the youth's life, because we need it more than ever. Mentorship is so important. We need it. So if you're out there and looking for a way that you can make an impact in the community and want to help in the school system, come on, apply. There's so many different schools around here that need need the support and mentorship of people in the community.
I think what you said is somewhat important, because I would not be where I am at today if it wouldn't have been for some teachers that motivated me.
Yes, sir.
One of my issues that I do have, how do you deal with those people, especially like my age or a little younger than me, that might have had a negative experience in education? And because they had a negative experience in education, they promote that negativeness all around. I mean, I've heard people say, I'm not good in math, and you say, well, what do you know about math? Because their grandfather told them they weren't in good in math, and their mom told them, so all of a sudden they believe they weren't good in math. And so how do you try to encourage them, even though they might have had a negative experience? That doesn't mean that the next generation should have a negative experience.
Correct. I mean, you do see this a lot. And so in anything with a change theory, I know Cotter talks about it as well, people's previous experience, or even like veterans that have been around in the community for a long time, they do have this viewpoint of certain things. So it's very important to explain to them to have a growth mindset. What happened then does not have to happen now. And also paint the narrative to a lot of the seniors that came, because no matter whether it was education or athletics, they walked so we could run. And so they might have had that negative impact or might have had that struggle, but because of what they've been through and what the challenges they face, it has allowed us to overcome that adversity, be resilient, and have the opportunities today so I can be where I'm at in these leadership positions. But it is very important to sit down with them and have those conversations, so that way I can understand what you've been through. I can thank you for your sacrifices or the struggles that you've been through, and make sure that history is not repeating itself, and allow them to understand that, hey, we're doing some great things here, but I need you to help me and guide me along the way. There's nothing we can do in life by ourselves, and it's because of the experiences of the elders that have come before us to allow us to be in these positions to be great leaders we are today.
Why do you think that the perception out there is that about men of color not always being supportive of the family or the institution? And the reason I ask you that question, because that's out there.
Right.
But then that's why I have you on, to show that that's not necessarily the truth. And that your job, I think your job is, I'm giving you this job, is a beacon in the community.
Yes, sir.
Because kids watch you.
Yes, sir.
People don't understand that. They sit back and they watch how you act.
Yes, sir.
They watch how you do. And so therefore, it's important to be a positive role model. So how do you're the principal of ninth grade, how do you motivate those young minds, because they're coming from 6th, 7th grade into 8th grade into ninth grade, so now you got to mature them 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in their vision to want to do more, opposed to just coming and just sitting there and just daydreaming.
Right. I truly believe it's about exposure, and exposing them to something different. If you think negative, if you see negativity, that's what you become. It'll consume you. It'll take over you. So I believe, and not saying just myself, but my mentors, such as Leland Nelson, guys like that have come before me, that showed me better. I remember my struggles growing up. My grandmother and my aunts and uncles, they really created a great life for me, and I'm very thankful for them. But we had some struggles growing up, and so all I knew was that I wanted to be successful in a legal way, in a positive way, so that way I could break the cycle. And so I hope every day that I have the opportunity to show these kids that, yes, a young man from uptown is now in a position that I am successful in ways that I never thought I could be, on the mat, in the classroom, in life, a positive father taking care of his children. You just have to show them that there's a better option out here. You don't have to chase the streets. You don't always have to be a basketball player. You don't always have to be a football player. But again, exposure. A lot of the times our children fall behind the 8 ball because they are not exposed to these certain things. Even myself, from my kids and being a father, I don't push my kids to play sports. They do play sports, and I told them all the time, like, listen, you don't have to do this just because daddy did this. My son is a great builder. He takes Legos. He likes to build things. So just like I would do if he was a good runner or a good football player or a wrestler, I find him STEM camps to put him into, so that way his mind can grow. Because when the athletic ability stops, we still have to be able to use our minds to be successful and grow. So going back to just the question is just exposure to our kids, showing them that you do not have to get caught up in negativity in life, but you can do whatever you want to do in life. We see it every day with a lot of our successful African American, black and brown leaders of the world today.
You said something. I want to go back over quickly with you. You talked about legal.
Yes, sir.
And the whole thing about doing things in the right way.
Yes, sir.
And when you said it about legal, would you explain to my audience, that get them to understand? Legal is very important, and it has to be about exposure, because most of us have grown up and we've seen people that have done illegal things, and at that point we think they're very successful.
Correct.
Because they got money, they got cars, or they got whatever. So
Correct.
How do you counter that in the community that we grow up in and we live? Because they see a lot of positive role models in terms of illegal activity.
And I truly believe that it's about exposing them to the long game, right? If you live in right now and you focus on right now, you won't have a future for tomorrow because you're focused on just right now. If you have, $100 to your name, you're going to spend all that right now instead of putting it away and investing it. I know one of the greatest things that ever happened to me was that I had a teacher that retired, and they pulled me aside and was like, young man, you see this right here? They showed me their pension slip, and they also showed me a 403B. And prior to that, I had no knowledge what a 403B was. And he said, young man, you need to put this to the side and invest in a 403B, because when you retire, you want to have this as a separate entity to help subsidize your retirement. And so I believe having conversations with the youth about things like that will broaden their horizons and expand to them and show them, like, listen, right now this might look lucrative, but I'm here to tell you there's going to come a day that when you're going to, be 60, 70 years old, you're going to be able to look back and have a pension, have a retirement, and really live a life. This might seem like it's very enticing right now, but there's a lot of things that come with that other life. I don't have to look over my shoulder at night because I know I'm going to work every day, doing the right thing. With this other lifestyle, you have to worry about someone coming after you. You have to possibly worry about getting locked up. And you just have to have real conversations. I believe the youth of today, they like real. And also this society and the youth that we serve daily, they really truly chase dollars, and they understand that. So you have to make it relatable into real life experiences. So right now you might see this, but tomorrow you might not have this opportunity. So it's very important to prepare and put away today for tomorrow. And I think the conversations that I've had with the students that I do serve, it's eye-opening, because there's some false narrative out here that in the education world you do not make a lot of money, or you can't prepare yourself for your future or take care of your family. So that's a false narrative. And once they learn about those things and see the different opportunities that come with education and being in education, it is very eye-opening for the youth.
What do you think that as a community should do? And the reason I ask you that is that, it's a little different than when I was growing.
Yes, sir.
What should we do to encourage entrepreneurship, to encourage education, to encourage doing the right thing?
Correct.
Because what ends up happening is, and it minds boggles to me, that when some people don't relate to it until it affects them. So they don't think about the criminal justice system because they're not a part of it until either one of their family members or cousins or whatever gets involved in the criminal justice system. Then all of a sudden they become concerned. It's just like, no doubt, I've read it to at least 2-3 matter of fact, attorney general and high up people that wanted to lock us up and throw the keys away. And then they've gone to prison. They've come back and met with me and told me how unfair the criminal justice system is, or tell me how unfair prison is.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, everybody in there is not guilty. But before, their attitude was everybody was guilty. I think that's why it's important what you're saying, and that's why I think churches, organizations, sororities, fraternities, and all of this, we have to now really get to work together to really start to build, quote unquote, a village.
Right.
Because sometimes we put too much responsibility. I'm going right here. It's going to be a good one for you.
Yes.
We put a lot of responsibility on teachers.
Yes.
Or education system, and the parents don't take no responsibility for their own kids. They blame everything on everybody else but them. So how do you navigate with that kind of hearsay out there?
Yeah. I mean, you touched on two things that prior to this that we can get back to the parent thing.
Sure.
One of the things that I really think that we have to focus on is there's a million ways to skin a cat. So one thing, I do not force or push college on all students, because college is not for every student. We were talking about the workforce and things like that, creating these opportunities. I do know one thing, that every doctor, every lawyer in the world, no matter what type of education you receive, when things get broke or you need things fixed around the house, you have to call a plumber, you have to call an electrician, you have to call HVAC. So there's a lot of opportunities for our scholars to be great through career pathways. And so I do believe that that's an opportunity that we really need to focus on, especially moving into the way of the world that we have right now. There are so many different opportunities, so many local colleges that are doing good. Even here locally, we have like the Evolve Trades program, but Thaddeus Stevens, Penn Tech, Williamson Trade. These are all great opportunities for our scholars to go on to make a great living in life. And sometimes, they're making a lot of money, and they're coming back with these different trades and these opportunities, and they can come back to the community and make a difference. I know one program that they do have right now, some of the scholars are working on different projects in the city. So it's a way for you to be a part of your community and also make money at the same time. Segue to the next thing, you stated that it is tough at times. A lot of the times when we're in dealing with different situations, again, these are just my viewpoints, it takes a village. When I was growing up as a kid uptown, it was a true village. And I know you're like, man, we thought that it wasn't a true village, and even back in the day, it was even a greater village. But when I got in trouble, or if Big Dad up at the YMCA saw me cutting up, or if Coach Cam saw me cutting up at the Y, they would get on me, they would chastise me. But right now, we're facing a lack of accountability from I would say the home front, which is the biggest reason why there is a disconnect. It is very important for us to have all stakeholders involved in the educational process. When all stakeholders, and I mean stakeholders, I mean local businesses, city officials, YMCAs, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, it's very important for them to be a part of the educational process, because it helps take the load off the school system when holding these kids accountable. A lot of the times, the parents, just like, we're all parents, they don't want to hold the children accountable, which makes our job harder at the end of the day. And that's with anything, whether it's them, in school, whether it's them, working, whether it's them being in athletics. It's just tough right now. It's just a tough battle.
And so you said something, parents need to be more accountable. And I do understand when we say parents need to be more accountable. We know that kids are raising kids.
Correct.
We know that there's not a line of responsibility there.
Right.
And so we put the element on the educational institution. And so, unfortunately, your job is a lot harder than it would normally be.
Correct.
I would admit to you, I've said something to a number of my friends about going and doing substitute teaching and coming and doing. They go, oh, no. Because they see some of the kids' attitude out in public, and they're afraid. So what would you tell people like me, or people who could bring something to the schools and to our community to say that, hey, you have a lot more value than the negativity of what you might have saw for that kid?
You touched on this earlier, and I would say it's similar to voting. Don't complain if you're not willing to get into the fight. We need help all across the board. It's kind of like you hear when people are doing outreach for churches, what they say, you got to get beyond the walls, right, of the church. And it's the same thing here in the community. If you feel as though you want to make a greater impact, you have to go to where the trouble is. And so don't be afraid to come in and substitute at any local school or wherever you want to make a difference at. You have to get in the fight. And so if you are such a great leader as you state, and you feel like you have these resources or skill set to touch the youth, make a difference in the youth life and be very impactful, go to where the youth are at. They're not going to come to you. That's the biggest issue today. Everyone might have this program over here, you have this program over there, but if the kids had the support that they needed or had, we wouldn't have these issues going on anyway. If the kid is having these type of troubles, they're not going to come to you. So why not volunteer? Why not get paid to do what you want to do and meet the children where they're at so you can truly make a great difference?
You said something earlier, and I want to tie into it based on my experience, and I would assume your experience as well. Those of us who have become fortunate, blessed, and we had the opportunity to graduate from college.
Yes, sir.
I sometimes get people say to me, well, you're different. You're different. But we're not really different because we all came up in the same neighborhood.
Right.
And not necessarily because I'm one way. Believe me, my sister was totally opposite the way I was, and my cousin was situated this way. So what do you think that how we should basically say to people, hey, we're just like you. We just figured it out, or somebody guided us.
Yes.
And I think that's the important, guided us to do better. Because I had people that guided me to do better. You had people that guided you to do better. So that's why it's important, as you said earlier, that's why it's important if you go to the churches or whatever, because we got to figure out a way how we can become the positive role models in our community. Because sometimes I think what happens is, and you brought it up earlier, you see the negative, and we're the positive, and the negatives outweigh the positive because they don't really see no advantages of being one of us.
Right. That's a great point. I do see this a lot, and people, even some of the scholars might say, hey, you're different, you can't relate, you're not like us or anything like this, and then that's an opportunity or a segue for a great conversation piece for me. And I break it down for them because, I have been through some different struggles in life. My like I said, my grandmother struggled to raise me. My uncle, who served as my father figure, really sacrificed a lot. My aunts, and just allowing the scholars to truly know, like, listen, I'm from here, and the thing about me is the type of leader that I am, and it's whatever you like. If you like it, I love it. But I'm here in the community still, as a leader. Like I said, and I've been here. I've been uptown. So when the kids see me, they see me at the grocery store. They see me at Family Dollar. They're going to see me at Chan's. They see me at Emerald getting different types of food. Just the relationship and explaining to them. I do know one thing that really made a difference in my life. Like I said, my family was huge in my life, and it made a big difference in my life. But also having those local guys, because there was a point in life where things could have went left for me, but the people that were out here doing wrong said, hey man, wrap that up, that's not you. I was in college, and they knew that I had an opportunity to go into college and wrestle and do some great things. So I can only imagine like what would have happened if I didn't have those guys standing up, or the adults telling me, hey, don't do that. I also believe that it's nothing but the grace of God that I'm standing here today and being in this position and opportunity. So you just have to have, we're missing at times the adults or the community leaders that might say, hey, you need to tighten up. Because as we stated earlier, the parents are sometimes so sensitive that they don't want anyone saying anything to their kids until it's too late. So we have to get to a place where we are a village, allow the people that are in these leadership positions to lead our children and to give them some tutelage and give them some direction, and so it could take the load off of maybe the parents, off the school, and we truly have that village mindset.
What do you think that we should do in terms of, and I think you touched on it a little bit, that we have some bright, smart, visionary young people out there. What's the better way? We got to encourage them. As you said, we got to encourage them to think outside the box. We got to encourage them, and I've come to this one conclusion: if you have not been exposed, then you don't know what you like or what you do like. And that's one of the issues that we have in our community. They watch TV, and that's all they see, or they hear conversations that they hear it, and they form an opinion that's not been proven and tested.
Correct.
So I'm just asking you, just your viewpoint. What are some of the things you see that we got to do a better job at?
I do believe that we have to do a better job of highlighting the success. If we focus on the negative, that's what will become to consume us. But we have to focus and highlight the great people that have come out of Harrisburg. And I'm near and dear to him, so I'll say this. Everyone in Harrisburg knows Micah. You know why? He's from here. We celebrate him. How many people know Dr. Corey Black? Harrisburg alumni, owns his own dentist practice right there in Harlem, New York. He's doing amazing work. How many of you know Sequoia Sherrill? These are just people that I'm naming them. I can go down the list. But because there isn't really like a connect highlighting the successful people that come through Harrisburg, it doesn't give our scholars an opportunity to see. Maybe you want to be a psychologist. Maybe you want to be a dentist. Maybe you want to be a lawyer. And so what I've done, and remember, we control what we can control. So in spaces that I have an opportunity to highlight, these people, I created a wall that highlights a lot of the Harrisburg High School alumni, or, just to educate our kids and show them, and that could be either military, it could be either, HVAC, plumbing, things like that. It could be successful NFL players, it could be doctors, it can be lawyers, because we have to show our kids that this is a broad tree that expands its branches in many directions that have come through Harrisburg. Awareness is the number one thing. Because Harrisburg is more than just athletics, it's more than just, the negative that's always having us under the microscope, but until we focus on the positive and highlight all the positive that goes on in this city and the people that have come from this city, that's all that will be viewed as, because it's only negative.
Now, a lot of you assume that only the people that listen to my program is Harrisburg, but people listen to my program across Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
Places. But it's the same principle
Everywhere.
everywhere. So some of you who are saying, talk about Harrisburg, no. It's the same thing. No matter where it is. No matter if it's in Stilton, no matter if it's in Middletown, no matter if it's in Pittsburgh, no matter if it's in Wilkinsburg, no matter if it's Penn Hills, no matter if it's in Philadelphia.
Right.
We got to do a better job, and I've been saying this, we got to do a better job to highlight those people who helped our community to get to where it is. I'm not in. I can bring up Martin Luther King, and I can bring up all those kinds of people, and all of you know them. But it's not those ones. It's the trailblazers that helped develop who we are now. I mean, a lot of you bring up the coach at Camp Curtin Y.
Yeah, Coach Cam.
Coach Cam.
Legend.
Now, he's a legend. I'm not from here. But why do I know about him? Only, I guess, because I'm the chair of the Camp Curtin Y.
Yes, sir.
So I do know. But we got to highlight those people because of all the things I've heard about that man. He's done a lot for a lot of people. And they've decided that the Camp Curtin's going to honor him coming down the road and name the gym after him. Or, we voted on that. But my point is, we need to do that all over.
Correct.
We need to go back to wherever, Middletown, Stilton, or Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. We need to go back and start having people understand what they've done. We need to understand that Emma Chappelle in Philadelphia started a bank. They need to know that. They need to know about the Lavells in Pittsburgh in the Hill District. They need to know how those legacies help build to where we are. Unfortunately, we did not control the media. We still don't control the media and certain information. So a lot of the information that comes out is very negative. And that's why I do Did You Know? I made the decision that I was going to have this program. I was going to do it because we need to tell our story, but we need to tell it ourselves. One of the things that's coming terrible now is media. Black media is not doing well. And that's who's going to have to tell our stories. So we're going to have to start to developing our own media, our own information, and we're going to have to step up to the plate. We keep watching things and we quote things that we don't know about, or we quote things that we hear, but we don't do no research. There's no excuse now. You can Google, ask the kid Google. If you can't Google, they'll pretty well tell you everything. I mean, I've learned that in the barbershop. You know, used to be in the barbershop and we'd say something, you say something, and I'd say you're wrong, you say I was wrong, and I may not see you for whatever 2-3 months in the barbershop because I believe I was right, you believe you was right. It don't work that way no more. I say this, he say that, and the first thing I know, they put the rat on there and they're saying boom.
There it is.
That's the way it is. One of the things that I've had all kinds of people in here. I've had people that's been in prison. I've had different people in here because I want people to see us. I want us to just be normal people.
Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to bring big super hitters on because I can bring big super, and I'm going to do that time to time. But you know, I want you to tell the audience here. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Because this program, I'm going to be closing up here. What do you want to tell my audience? I want you to tell them, but listen, audience, he's telling it from him. Yeah. He ain't telling you it from the Harrisburg this or whatever, because his views is his views.
Right.
You know, I pulled him off the sidewalk and made him come in here and do this program. I'm telling the truth. That's what happened. That's what happened. I grabbed him. I said, hey, what are you doing? And he looked at me, he's like, well, you know, because he knows me and I know him. Yes, I said, I want you to come on my program and I want you to tell people who you are.
Right.
And of course, you know, he's one of those, well, I don't know. I said, no, you have a story to tell.
Right.
That's how he got on this program. There's going to be a whole lot of you. I'm going to be dropping down, pull up and say, I want you to come on this program. Why? Because I want it to be real. I want people to see, touch us, feel us. You know, that's been my biggest gripe. We need to tell the story of ourselves, of who we are, and like he said, people need to know who different people is. People need to know what doctors were here. Right. People need to know all of these things that help build who we are. And you know, we're very good at telling negative things about people that did 100 years ago. I asked you about somebody, you'll tell me, oh, yeah, you know, he shot up such and such and such and such. But if I asked you, how did the street become this way? How do we create this monument? Then we go, oh. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's our responsibility to tell our story. But before we end, I want you to tell my audience what you think you want to say. And I'm laughing because I know that some people done seen you on and they probably already text you. And they got an opinion of what you should say.
No, it's all right. For one, I'll say this. I truly appreciate you for the opportunity today. And I'm gonna counter you in a little bit, but in a positive way. Okay. I do believe, like, I'm a big hitter. I'll say that I'm a big hitter. I am a big hitter because it's your thought process, and so that segues into how I view, and I want everyone to view this way. My name on Instagram is Coach Don Believes, and so that is something that I'm very pushing because I do a lot of motivational speaking for the youth and for just people across the country as well, because you are whatever you want to be. With the right community behind you, with family behind you, with support behind you, you could be whatever you want to be in life. And so no matter where you are, don't let your current situation dictate your future outcome. If you want to be a doctor, go be a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, go be a lawyer. If you want to be, a teacher, go be a teacher. But you have to set some goals so that way you can be whatever you want to be in life. Hey, it's your life. You control whatever you want to do. Your destiny is in your hands. But if you sit back scared to take a leap of faith, you'll never become nothing. If you sit back and are a complainer and not a doer, hey, you'll never go anywhere in life. So just focus on that. And if you want to follow me anymore, and check out my journey as I continue to navigate through life and chase down my dreams, you can follow me on Instagram at Coach Dom Believes. And that's it. Get to know a little bit more about me and follow me on my journey. So again, I truly appreciate you for having me on here today. And, go be great. Wish you all the best.
Well, I want to say this before I end. I think that you have seen somebody who's just like you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've seen somebody that's experienced some of the same thing. Because half of what he told you is half of what I went through. Tough neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Homewood, blah, blah, this. Said you weren't going to be this, said you weren't going to be this. We had positive role models and we had negative role models who were positive at that particular point in time. And so I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's our responsibility to encourage our youth.
Yes, sir.
We got to. I just see so much violence, crime on crime. And we are caring, loving people. And we've experienced a lot. And not only we experienced a lot, boy, we sure believe in forgiving.
Yes, sir.
We are a forgiving group. And I will leave you on that with this. He's just like you and me. He's no different. So if he can do it, so can you.
Yes, sir.
So I want you to have a good day. Get out the vote.
Yes, sir. Go
That's
vote.
one of the most important things. So I'll be seeing you again. But if you hear nothing else I've had to say today, two things. If he can do it,
Yes, sir.
I can do it, so can you. I'll leave you on that. Get out the vote.
Go.
Thank you for watching Did You Know with Richard Utley. Please mark your calendar and join us every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Did you know? If you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you have an interesting topic or individual that you would like to see us discuss during future broadcasts, you can reach out to us on Facebook at Richard Utley. Until next time, have a nice day, and we will see you again for another Did You Know, and can be found on most of your favorite social media platforms.